Canada is absolutely furious. It's not playing around when it comes to Donald Trump, his regime, and how the United States under Donald Trump is treating Canada. So as I mentioned yesterday, Prime Minister Carney was joining the premier meeting taking place in Huntsville, Ontario, being hosted by Premier Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario. And these premiers of Canada were not playing around. They were united against Trump, from the Conservative to NDP to Liberal. They put out joint statements saying that we're standing up to the United States. And Prime Minister Carney, I think, exhibited exceptional leadership. I want to show you what went down and what these strong, positive Canadian messages look like and how Canada is fighting back. I want to talk about some of the implications as well. People, for example, in Wisconsin right now, many other states as well, are absolutely terrified of the Canada tourism and product boycott against the United States. Las Vegas has basically been halted to a standstill as Canadians and other people from foreign countries are just not spending their tourism dollars in the United States. Remember, that started in Canada. Hat tip to the Maple Midas, Canada strong, Canada proud. So here's Prime Minister Carney in Huntsville, Ontario. This is when he spoke with the other premiers in Canada, and he said fundamentally he wanted to make this point. Canadian people are positive people. And despite all the negativity coming from Trump and the United States, Canada is going to pursue a positive path. It's going to establish relationships with the rest of the world, and it will not be bullied by the Trump regime. Here's Prime Minister Carney.
Canadians are fundamentally positive people. That's what Canadians are. Canadians are making choices to visit this great country, spend time here with their family, with their friends. They're making choices to buy Canadian products. We're making choices to build Canadian projects. That is happy, positive, productive, and that's the true nature of Canada.
And the message that he emphasized over and over again is Canada won't accept a trade deal with the United States at any cost that harms Canada. I want to show you more of what Prime Minister Carney said, but I want to share this with you. This is from the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, right? He's from the Conservative Party, whereas Prime Minister Carney's from the Liberal Party. But I just want to show you how united Canada is right now, because here Premier Ford says what a great business leader he thinks Prime Minister Carney is, and how Carney leading Canada right now is one of the best things for Canada strong. I mean, just compare this to like the way Republicans and Democrats are in the United States after Donald Trump's divided our nation here in the United States. This is how Canada has come together, where a conservative premier and a liberal prime minister are working hand in hand. Watch Premier Doug Ford. Let's play this.
We need to stay united. We're all hoping for the best and prepared to do our part, each province, each territory, to make sure that President Trump understands one thing, that we're his number one customer. I've always said this. We buy more products, Canada, than China, Japan, UK, France, and I used to say Korea, but they switched it up to Mexico because they're within the free trade, more than all of them combined. And he needs to understand that when he goes out there and he says, I don't need Canada. Well, I guess he doesn't need Premier Smith's oil. He doesn't need, our great Premier Moe's potash and uranium, or Ontario's high-grade nickel, or any other critical mineral that we buy, and all the widgets, I say, that we buy off of the U.S. If we were a standalone country, which I never recommend, we'd be the U.S.'s third largest trading partner in the world, Ontario alone. That's what he needs to do. The high-grade nickel, as I said, or the great aluminum that comes from Quebec. These are just a fraction of the items that he needs us, and many more areas. And I've always said, President Trump increases tariffs. This is my personal opinion. I don't speak on behalf of COF. We need to make sure we match tariff by tariff, dollar for dollar, and hit them back as hard as we possibly can. There's one thing President Trump understands, is strength. He doesn't understand or appreciate weakness. He will roll over us like a cement roller if you show an ounce of weakness with the president, in my opinion. And as well, at the same time, we need the federal government to be ready, as we are. We're putting $11 billion to support businesses, communities, people's jobs, industries, and I know the federal government is ready to step in there and support industries. Support industries, and I'm speaking for Ontario, the steel sector. I know, Scott, you have a steel company, and so do you. A few of you actually have steel companies as well as Susan and Danielle. I understand. I think you have steel companies there, so it's a big sector in our sectors. But we need to make sure that we start onshoring everything we possibly can. And again, I'm speaking for Ontario. We need to start producing I-beams here in Ontario. Our, Toronto, the Greater Toronto Area has more cranes in the sky in a slow construction period than the top 10 cities in the U.S. And what those cranes do, they carry U.S. I-beams or rebar. Before this happened, I didn't realize we don't make rebar or I-beams here, but we're going to start making I-beams and steel, aluminum cans that we all drink from Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Labatt's, Molson's, private label craft brewers just in Ontario buy 150 million cans. What happens? They get 25% tariff on the way down, 25% tariff on the way back. Well, those days are done. We're bringing companies to manufacture and print the cans and form the cans. And that goes for tin cans as well. DeFasco in Hamilton makes tin, ships it all the way out to California. They make the tin cans and they ship them all the way back. Well, that has to come to an end too. We need to send them a strong message. We don't have to take a back seat to anyone in the world, and we sure the heck don't have to take a back seat to President Trump. Again, Prime Minister, I want to thank you for joining us for this FMM. It's refreshing to some of us that have been around this table for some time to have a prime minister that has our backs, that are out there. He's a great community builder, and he's a brilliant businessman. And I'm confident that he's going to take the business approach to our federal government that we haven't seen for a long time. So thank you very much, everyone. And I guess let's get started.
Now, going back to Prime Minister Carney's speech that he gave in, again, Huntsville, Ontario, here's what he had to say about the trade war by the United States and how Canada is approaching this, and his message to the premiers. Here, play this clip.
The spirit of this meeting, the substance of the meeting, and the substance of our approach, which is positive. This is about building this country. We're getting more and more concrete about how we're going to do that. And it's about building other relationships. At the same time, if at all possible, we would be developing our relationships, coming to a good accord with the United States. But the importance is to build up.
Well, just quickly, what happens if there's no deal on August 1st?
We'll see. We're working to get the best deal for Canadians, and that's the focus now. I think what's absolutely clear is we have a lot to do in this country. We have a lot to do that's positive to build. That's becoming more concrete. Canadians are excited about that. Canadians are, what's coming out is how fundamentally positive Canadians are. They want to build. They want to move forward. They don't want to dispute. And if there's challenges south of the border with that relationship, we'll focus on what we can do in this great country. And if you're looking for where to spend your vacation, Canadians are spending their vacations across this great land. And this is my last word. I will just give a short plug for the One Canada Pass, which means that it's important. Visiting our national parks, visiting our museums, bringing your children, and including bringing your children 18 and under via rail at these reduced prices or free. And it's a pleasure that Canadians are taking advantage of it.
Prime Minister Carney also says that his phone is ringing off the hook from other countries around the world who want to do business with Canada. And unlike Donald Trump, who says that and lies, we know Prime Minister Carney is telling the truth here because we've seen Canada enter into major deals in Canada's interest with other countries throughout the world. So here he is. Let's play it right here.
Can you elaborate on what that means to get a good deal for Canada tangibly? What does that include? And if we can't get there, will Canada retaliate?
Well, the first thing is we're working positively for a deal. We'll take stock if there isn't one that works, but that depends on the overall circumstance. That's the first. The elements of what's positive, and let's start from the position of, really the longest standing and one of the largest trading relationships in the world between Canada and the United States, a relationship until recently that had been tariff-free, a relationship that has many integrated sectors, including the auto sector, the steel sector, the energy sector, and beyond. And so a good deal is something that preserves, reinforces, and stabilizes those relationships as much as possible. A good deal is also one that doesn't tie our hands in terms of other things that we can do so that we can pursue that positive agenda that we focus so much of our time on. And maybe just to go back to the start of your question, look, we have a lot to do in this country. We have a lot positive to do in this country, building this country in a way, building one Canadian economy. Our phone is ringing off the hook from other countries who want to do more with Canada. I've had over 80 bilaterals with world leaders since I became Prime Minister. A number of those premiers have been on major trade missions. We have other things to do. And so we're going to focus more and more of our time on those positive aspects going forward. Thank you.
Now, here is one of the messages when Prime Minister Carney addressed the premiers during the meeting itself. And when you watch this, I just want you to think as well of the contrast between this and Donald Trump, how professional Carney is, what a leader looks like, unlike whatever the hell spews out of Donald Trump's vomit mouth. Here, play this clip.
The extraordinary level of cooperation on all levels of government with respect to addressing the challenges that we're seeing. Leadership, obviously, by the provinces, but the federal government across seven different ministries is involved in protections and the first responders and the volunteers and the communities, Indigenous peoples, making the best of a tragic situation. So thank you all. And we will continue to work together. And I think as well, I'll just underscore the conversation we had in Saskatoon as First Ministers about structurally what we can do, recognizing this is an ongoing issue.
And then showing you this as well, I wanted to just show you another quick speech from Premier Ford when he talks about, again, how he and Prime Minister Carney basically were over a campfire together the other night, and how, and here's such an important thing where Doug Ford says, Prime Minister Carney is one of the top executives at Goldman Sachs. He was the leader of the Bank of England, leader of the Bank of Canada. Here's someone who's got a huge amount of wealth, but Prime Minister Carney never talks about how rich he is, what his successful background he is. He's always focused on the interest of the Canadian people. Watch this again. Special moment of Canada coming together. Here's Premier Doug Ford. Let's play it.
Full disclosure, Prime Minister stayed at my place. We had dinner. We were up till 12:30 at night, chatting in front of the fireplace, solving all the world's problems.
And you've got a very nice small chalet.
Yeah. I have a little shack up and down the street there. And do you know what it is? Yeah, I'm telling you, I haven't known him for long, but the Prime Minister is the most humble person you'd ever want to meet. Let me just give you a little background. Now you got me on a roll here. Okay. The Prime Minister was a Goldman Sachs guy. He worked on Bay Street. He was the chair of Brookfield, which I think is close to $1 trillion fund. Chair of Bloomberg. Everyone knows Bloomberg. Bank of Canada governor, Bank of England governor. He has never said that in his entire time I've known him. He doesn't do that. He's very humble. He listens. He's a smart business person. And I always tell my business owners, who would you give the keys to? I'd hand the keys to a business over to the Prime Minister. He's business minded. He has his hands full because of the last 10 years of what has happened in our country. He's playing cleanup right now, and we're going to be there to support him. But he's a very good man. He's off to a good start. He's an honest man too. He just wants the best for Canada. He doesn't need to be doing this, I can assure you that. But he's given it everything he possibly can. And I think that's a consensus around the table. He's trying. He's a very smart, shrewd businessman.
Now, here's Prime Minister Carney one more time from that meeting so you could hear it in his own voice. Here, play this clip.
We will have a discussion on the current state of negotiations with the United States. I will say that, as you are aware, our senior ministers, my chief of staff, myself, were engaged in continuous discussions. Minister LeBlanc will be reinforcing those discussions over the next few days in Washington with the United States. We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We're only going to accept the best deal for Canada. That is very much informed by our discussions. We understand as well that we all understand that the global trade environment is changing, and there are some countries that are pulling back, that are restricting market access, but there's even more countries that are opening up to market access. And the premiers have helped lead this with individual trade initiatives to Asia, to Europe, with partners around the world. We are building on those. And part of what we will discuss is how we can be best coordinated to building positive trade relationships with reliable partners. What we collectively can most control is building a stronger economy, moving from reliance to resilience and division to unity. That will require two things. First, support for affected industries, lumber, steel, aluminum, automobiles, particularly. We had an example of that last week with a series of measures that we announced. We'll discuss the nature of those measures and how they integrate. But crucially, what we're looking to do is support those industries to build bridges, to build a stronger Canadian economy, to build forward. So if it's lumber, it's building more houses in Canada. It's developing new markets around the world as we work with the Americans. Secondly, we rightly focused in Saskatoon in the start of June on major projects. And since then, and I want to thank you individually and collectively for your support, since then, the One Canadian Economy Act, the federal act, has received royal assent. It's now law. Our new federal major projects office will be open by Labor Day, providing a single point of contact for governments, proponents, and communities for proposals. With that is this shift in attitude of the federal government towards major new projects, from why to how. Why build to how to build, and how to work together in order to build. And part of that how is and you had a meeting yesterday, I know, with First Nations. Part of that is continuous engagement with Indigenous peoples. These will be critical to our success. We met with hundreds of First Nations rights holders as well as the FN last week. I will be meeting with the Inuit Crown Partnership Committee 2 days from now in Inuvik, and at the start of August with Métis leadership to begin the process of setting out how we are going to cooperate.
Now, one of the things we're learning as well, and this is part of the offensive that Canada is mounting against the U.S., their economic team is putting out facts, the truth. For example, Canada reciprocal tariffs against the United States could add about $14,000 to the cost of building a home by 2027. A new report from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce estimates that the average cost of building a U.S. home could rise by an additional $14,000 by the end of 2027 if tariffs on Canadian imports remain in place, even as many experts estimate that America needs millions of more affordable homes. In 2023 alone, Canada accounted for 69% of U.S. lumber imports, 25% of imported iron and steel, and 18% of copper imports. all key construction materials. In a statement, the White House pushed back on that assertion that tariffs would increase the cost for Americans because the White House is stupid and they are a bunch of frauds. The White House statement is, the administration has consistently maintained that the cost of tariffs will not be borne by American consumers, but by foreign exporters who rely on access to the American economy. Okay, that's just not the way it works. It's a tax on the importer. Literally, it is a tax on the American people. We're seeing that it get passed on. This isn't hypothetical. Like, it is actually happening right now. Wisconsin, Trump tariffs are straining Wisconsin business relationships and price predictability at the port. We're seeing a massive amount of shipping decreasing. And Donald Trump's tariffs are making it much harder for Wisconsin businesses to predict the price of raw materials and are straining decades-long relationships with trade partners. Many businesses have been hesitant to speak out because they're afraid of Trump retaliation. But when they do speak out, like a former Republican state lawmaker, Dale Coy-Enga, who's the president of the Metropolitan Milwaukee Association of Commerce. Again, this guy's a Republican. He says the vast majority of businesses he speaks to have expressed major concerns about the tariffs and the uncertainty around when new tariffs will be implemented. It has delayed businesses being able to invest. It has harmed their ability to hire. It is having a real significant impact. A lot of that has to do with a slower start of the year because all of the uncertainty and talk around tariffs. In a year marked by a shifting international trade environment at the port of Milwaukee since the start of 2025, the ships coming in and the tonnage was down by about 30% as of May compared to the same period last year. So we'll keep you posted every step of the way, but Canada seems to have a plan that they're implementing during Donald Trump's trade war against them and against the world. And the United States seems to just, whatever Donald Trump vomits from his mouth, the corporate news here is just like, oh, Donald Trump's done this today. Nah. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Always happy to highlight Canada strong, Canada proud, Maple Meidas. Thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.